Let's get into it. Trump released a statement about the drones, putting the drone saga to an end. Joe Rogan and his guests are going to talk about whether or not they believe that. They're going to touch on some other theories. And after that, I'm going to play the statement that Trump released. And then I'm going to play another clip from a month ago where Trump was talking about the drones. And then I'm going to give my theory of what was actually going on, what I think was actually going on. Please put on your tinfoil Speedos for that one. Start with the Rogan clip, and then we'll move on.
Yeah, that's what happens a lot of times.
Yeah, we don't know who
our
this guy
adversaries
is.
think that too. Everything's America if they can't explain it.
Right.
Did you see the Trump administration address the drones today?
We heard about it, but I didn't see
Yes, I had a friend tell me they made an announcement, but we were getting in the car at the time.
Yeah.
Essentially, they said it was all ours, and there was some sort of scanning that was done that was approved, and the other ones were hobbyists. And there was some sort of test that they were doing, but they were saying that it's ours, which is the whole thing stinks.
It does. Because
Stinks.
I
It's a
actually
poor
had
explanation.
Yeah.
I actually had a person that was up there, and she said one of those things came down low and slow over her house, and she said it had the sound of a helicopter. So she was like, her and her husband were like, oh, it's a helicopter. But then all of a sudden they realized, she said, Mr. Logan, were you ever aircrew? I said, yeah, I was in special ops and I flew in helicopters and da-da-da-da. And she goes, when it came down low, it had the sound of a helicopter, but you couldn't feel it. And I go, huh? She goes, when you can feel the rotor wash and it's hitting you in your chest, like boom, 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 boom. She said there was none of that. She said it came down slow, low over her house, and then it went back up, and then she said it looked like it went back into formation with something else. And she said, that's not any drone I know of. And she said it sounded like the actual noise of the helicopter and several of the other noises from the drones were all pre-recorded just to make them sound like they were conventional aircraft.
Yeah, and those are the same things I've been hearing too, because a lot of people are shoving videos at me a lot in their descriptions of things. And some of the stuff, looked like maybe it could be a spotlight from a helicopter, and then when the light moved, then you could finally see the helicopter behind the light. Then there was these other ones that was like, this is really weird.
Right. My friend Mark saw one. Mark Norman, how did he describe it, Jamie? He said it was triangular, right?
I just remember saying SUV sized.
Yeah, he said it was the size of an SUV. He said it was triangular. He said it moved really fast.
So when they initially came out, they said, oh, they're all manned, all right? I think it was John Kirby that was the speaker. And I used to work at the FAA, so my first thing was, well, if they're manned, you just call them up and say, cut it out.
Right.
Simple.
Right.
But it kept going on. And then later on, there was a report that DHS said, oh, one of the drones has come down in a mall parking lot, but DHS is assessed as just a regular drone. So when you hear that, what are you thinking? DJI Mavic, something small, whatever. Someone on X is on a train going by that exact same spot, and they show a drone next to two police cars, and this thing is as big as the police car. Yeah. And I'm like, so I have no way of confirming if that's what it really was.
Right.
But I have no reason to believe that this particular person was leaving. He goes, I don't know what you guys are thinking, but I'm passing that mall right now and take a look. And it's like maybe a 30-second clip or something, and you see this thing. It's as big as the SUVs. So.
And what does it look like?
It looked like kind of like a gondola with like large blades on the four corners. And
so it looks like a very large conventional drone.
Very large conventional drone. And so I'm sitting there thinking, was this a test that nobody knew about? What is going on for this to, and nobody got any answers. So
well, the other thing that is they could stay in the sky for like 5 hours at a time.
Right. That's what puzzles me is that takes industrial sized power generation.
Yeah. What are you using? Like, what is that thing using?
Nukes.
Jamie, can you see cold fusion? Can you find the video of the disclosure today? It was
yeah. While he's talking about the disclosure, the one thing I do want to mention is when I talked to the AWACS group, I thought it was kind of interesting because I said, so how many know about this? And he goes, the whole squadron knows about it. And I was like, what? He says, yeah, but we just don't talk about it because people lose their jobs over this. And I was like,
I've heard that as well.
And I was like, so this is an AWAC. And I said, am I to assume that if you're a British AWACS, then American AWACS can see it, French AWACS can see it, NATO AWACS can see it? And he just kind of, yeah.
And everybody doesn't know what it is, and no one's talking about
And
it.
everybody just says it's got to be American.
Let's hear what this lady says.
And before I turn to questions, I do have news directly from the President of the United States that was just shared with me in the Oval Office. From President Trump directly, an update on the New Jersey drones. After research and study, the drones that were flying over New Jersey in large numbers were authorized to be flown by the FAA for research and various other reasons. Many of these drones were also hobbyists, recreational, and private individuals that enjoy flying drones. In time, it got worse due to curiosity. This was not the enemy. A statement from the President of the United States to start this briefing with some news.
The part that gets me is the hobbyists being included in that. Is like,
Well, they definitely were hobbyists too, because there was hobbyists in Austin around that time. There was a ton of drones. It's just like people were like, "Whoa, it's a drone party!" Everybody was like, everybody with drones was just flying them around.
So,
okay, well that kind of makes sense then.
It kind of makes sense because there was so
here's-
much drone activity.
Here's
talk.
the thing that I got to look at it from an analyst point of view. The first thing that came up, I was like, so they knew this the whole time. Why couldn't they have said that from the very beginning?
It's a different administration.
Right?
Right.
And then two, why were they required to have a skiff briefing on drones? Nobody's ever answered that. At one point, the Congress guys all went into a skiff and got a skiff briefing on drones.
And then they didn't have a press conference about the results.
Yep.
Right.
Which would have been, could it be that they wanted to see what happens when you fly things over a metropolitan area and you fly a bunch of drones over highly populated
I would think
parts
that
of the country?
There's only a few reasons why I would say that you'd include both federal and hobbyist drones in any kind of an activity. And there's only
Well,
very
the
few
hobbyists
things.
are including themselves, right?
Yeah, and that could just be that they're accidentally there. But the feds, what were they doing?
Yeah.
And why would they have a skiff?
That's my point.
Explain a
it's
skiff to
something.
people that don't know what we're talking
A
about.
skiff is a place for information above secret, and it's a special compartmented intelligence facility where we can go in there and talk about things that are above
And
the
there's no
secret level.
recording devices.
Right.
You don't
No
bring a
phones, no
phone,
nothing.
no
just
nothing.
right. But the thing is this. I mean, most of us that are in the intelligence community or whatever, we're going to look at it and say something's not quite right here because this is something domestic happening over the U.S. So would it really require a skiff? You know?
Especially if it's authorized.
Right.
Correct.
You know. So would it really require that level of security to go on and
doesn't
have
make
these
sense to
guys
me.
talk? It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, the federal presence, to me, dictates the fact that if this was innocuous and unclassified, like you're saying, why was there not a press conference that described it and said the hobbyists are out there flying too, and they're just kind of interfering with our lanes where we go and fly normally between one place to another? That never came out. So why was the skiff even mentioned? That's something that they did release in the press, is that they were receiving briefings that were in a classified environment.
And then
Why?
there's still
Why?
there's still the problem with these drones popping up all over the world, especially over military facilities, and that part's not been addressed. It's just the other stuff that they,
Right.
hey,
That was Wright-Patterson Air Force Base had to get closed down, right?
Wright Patterson, Langley Air Force Base. There's others, and then there's reports of stuff in Australia. There's reports of things in other places in the world.
Let me ask you this and tell me if this makes sense. If you were the government and you knew that there were non-human intelligence that were operating vehicles above our cities, would a way to sort of obfuscate that to launch a bunch of our drones as well and have some shit that you could explain and then tell people, don't worry about it. It was just drones.
Oh,
It was
yeah.
our drones. Like, see, here's our drone. Here's a drone that crashed. Look, it's got propellers. Normal drone. Yeah, it's big, but it's normal.
You have no idea how
Yeah,
many
you're
how many people have said that already.
Yep.
Yeah.
You're
you've
going
heard
in the
that.
right direction.
Yeah, you've heard that one. You've heard the other theory. They're looking for a dirty nuke.
Yeah.
Right.
They're looking for
That one scared the
HVT.
shit out of me.
Yeah, I did too. Honestly, I thought that's what it was about. But and then they have looking for HVTs like anti-terror or looking for terrorist groups because we were. I think at that time it went through the press that there was over 1,000 of these, jihadists that were in our midst. And we don't know where they're at.
Right.
Kind of thing. Maybe they're looking for those. Those are just some of the theories that you come up with this kind of a scenario.
And then there was the guy, the congressman that said, "Oh, there's an Iranian mothership out there," and we were like, "What?"
In the ocean.
Yeah,
Yeah.
none of this stuff was making any sense. And then you have to wonder, where was he getting his intel? Because if it's that crappy,
Right.
those people need to be fired.
Well, you got to take
or if it was on point and then he went into the skiff and then they straightened him out and said, don't say anything like that at all. Now, if we just go through what they talked about, he was talking about this gentleman here. I think I'm pronouncing his name right. Lenvell. A name as dark as he is. Am I right or am I wrong? Anyway, it's a bad joke. But I'm looking at him the whole time. I'm like, this gentleman is very dark. And his name is also very black. So anyway, it was mentioned, the skiff. There were congressmen, I believe Tim Burchett, I hope I'm saying his name right. I believe he mentioned that he was being pulled into a skiff. There was somebody else, I believe it might have been the mayor or congressman of New Jersey himself, was saying, I think we're all going to get pulled into a skiff and we're not going to get any answers about this and nothing's going to be done. And he was correct about that. But there were various politicians that were actually mentioning the skiff, that were saying we're going to get pulled into a skiff. They say they want to pull us into a skiff. So it wasn't a secret thing. Really, I think they missed that very hard unless you were covering the whole drone thing and not just focusing on the UFO aspect. They have their field, we have our field kind of thing. Why would they explain anything? The other gentleman, Jason Sands, that he's sitting next, that Levan's sitting next to, he said, why wouldn't they explain the hobbyists or anything like that? You got to really think, why would they explain anything? If it is theirs and it's FFA, and why would they explain any of that to the people? If they're running tests and for various reasons, as it was said in that statement, which I don't know about that statement, but why would they explain anything? So, and again, with the skiff, why have a skiff? This is what this gentleman was asking. I would say it's either to just tell them that, hey, there's a whole bunch of nonsense going on, airships, this, that. Guys, this is what the skiff is. And they probably this is what the reason is for the drones. This is what they are. And they probably got straightened out in the sense of, stop saying all these other things. Just, this is us. Please just calm the people down for the places that you represent. Just calm all this. It's us. Don't worry. We're good. And it's either that, just to tell them, or to warn them, like, hey, this is what's going on right now. And again, this is what I think, so everybody can get their story straight. I think just because you get pulled into a skiff doesn't exactly mean that you're getting told the truth. They're just kind of setting you up with this serious event. We're going into the skiff. Oh my God, I gotta put my phone away. Oh, everything that we're being told while we're in the skiff is completely true. Maybe they're just preparing them for that. And now it's like, okay, everybody get your story straight. This is all it is. Blah, blah, blah. And then they probably got told about those various reasons that aren't being disclosed to us, which I don't like. And then this gentleman brings up the fact that anytime something's seen, they say, the other countries say, oh, we just assume it's American. Well, yeah, you kind of can, when it comes to jets, I think it's jets in general. I've seen a bunch of different countries. Russia is second place. They have about 8,200 jets. And it's like, oh, that's a lot. And then America has 14,000. Something crazy like that. Just so above second place. So that is why other countries would assume it's American, because they understand the vast power and sheer money spending that America has. So I don't know. But again, there is always the option that it's UFOs. But also, when you start thinking, is it UFOs? You got to also think about Project Blue Beam. You got to think of Project Blue Beam. You can't just sit back and be like, Project Blue Beam doesn't exist. It exists. And when are they going to roll it out? It was something that everybody was not told about, but discovered years ago. Years and years and years ago. And that can't be taken off the table. SUV-sized drones. I don't know, man. That could easily be a decoy. I mean, think about it. It could be a decoy. You know, like exactly what Joe said. Hey, look, here it is. Woo, real big, huh? Guess that's what's flying around. That whole thing about pre-recorded drone sounds, the only thing I have to say to that is why? Why would you do that? Maybe so people are freaked out, like, oh, I didn't hear anything. I don't know, I guess. But in actuality, what's, because think about how many people were actually close enough to these drones to hear them, right? So let's say there was 500 people that close. Who's going to believe these 500 people if they start saying there was no sound? And then on top of that, the people that they're telling, who's going to really care? So I don't know about pre-recorded drone sounds, I think that's what somebody who's leaning towards UFOs, because they're a little financially incentivized to, and it's their thing. I think that's what they would say. They would be like, oh, pre-recorded, because it's something else. Can't talk about it though. Sorry. I'm here on this 3-hour podcast to talk about everything I know, but there's some things I just can't talk about. Do I still work for the government? No, absolutely not. But, I don't get it. This gentleman, Jason Sands, the white guy that's sitting next to Linville, he's talking about his you didn't hear it in the clip. I didn't want to run it too long, but he was talking about how now he's trying to get a job and he can't get a job, and he's been out of work for more than a year now. And, there's certain places that want to hire him, but the clearance never checks out. He tries to get his clearance sent from the government to whatever place he tries to work for. And I think he doesn't realize, because Trump's going to take away your clearance. That has been the plan for quite some time. Trump doesn't want people like him to have clearance and go work somewhere else. So that's getting taken away. Whatever you got. If you're not working anymore, you're getting it taken away. That's happening. Thank God it happened to General Milley. Thank God it happened to General Milley, man. And then the whole various reasons. And it got worse because of curiosity from drone hobbyists. I just don't know if I buy that. I don't know about you, man. I don't know about this statement. I'll play it again.
And we will begin with our notifications and members, whose outlets, despite being some of the most viewed news websites in the country, have not been given seats in this room. And before I turn to questions, I do have news directly from the President of the United States that was just shared with me in the Oval Office. From President Trump directly, an update on the New Jersey drones. After research and study, the drones that were flying over New Jersey in large numbers were authorized to be flown by the FAA for research and various other reasons. Many of these drones were also hobbyists, recreational, and private individuals that enjoy flying drones. In time, it got worse due to curiosity. This was not the enemy. A statement from the president.
I don't know. Trump has shown that he's very transparent. So, obviously the drone situation was just so wild. It was so talked about. And then it just all ends with this statement. I think that's the only thing that's making it hard for me to believe. But when I think about where it's coming from the Trump administration. I do feel like Trump has shown himself to be transparent. He came forward saying, hey, listen, we know what this is. They should tell you what it is. Here, I'll even play it for you.
But is it anything, these drones, is it anything that people need to be worried about?
No, I think it's terrible. I would like to find out what it is and tell the people.
And can you commit to some kind of...
In fact, I'd like to do that. Could we find out what that was, Susie? Okay? Yeah, why don't we find out immediately? I can't imagine it's an enemy, or there would have been, people would have gotten blown up all over. Maybe they were testing things. I don't know why they wouldn't have said what it was. They had a lot of them flying over Bedminster, which is interesting, right?
And with the events today...
And before I turn to questions, I do have...
You guys already know that part. But, Trump makes promises, and he's been keeping a lot of his promises. So I kind of lean towards, and again, I know my bias because I do like President Trump and I do believe in the administration. So, I am taking that into account. But, he has proven, it's undeniable, he's proven himself to be pretty transparent. I'm not even gonna play this clip. Basically, Jeremy Corbell is basically like, this is not a good enough answer. Well, he's the same guy that was on Joe Rogan's podcast that said he saw a UFO and didn't pull out his phone because he wanted to take it all in. So I don't know about that guy. Anyway, let's move on. This is my theory of what may have been happening. So Trump actually talks about the drones about a month ago. Listen to this. Slow it down. Come on. I checked every video, guys. I messed up on one. I'm getting better.
Thank you. Good to see you. Good to see you.
Can you comment on the drones that are flying around New Jersey ports? It seems like the American people have a big disconnect.
The government knows what is happening. Look, our military knows where they took off from. If it's a garage, they can go right into that garage. They know where it came from and where it went. And for some reason, they don't want to comment. And I think they'd be better off saying what it is. Our military knows and our president knows. And for some reason, they want to keep people in suspense. I can't imagine it's the enemy, because if it was the enemy, they'd blast it out. Even if they were late, they'd blast it. Something strange is going on. For some reason, they don't want to tell the people. And they should, because the people are really, they happen to be over Bedminster.
Will you shoot them down?
They're very close to Bedminster. I think maybe I won't spend the weekend in Bedminster. I've decided to cancel my trip.
Have you received an intelligence briefing on the drones?
I don't want to comment on that.
So I think he did get a briefing. Here's my thing, okay? He's mentioned Bedminster twice. Maybe I'm saying that wrong. Bedminster. He's mentioned that twice. The drones were flying around there right around the time that he decided that he was going to spend the weekend there. Then he sees all of this and he says out loud, he doesn't have to say all this. He doesn't have to say this out loud, but he says, I'm going to cancel my trip out there, actually. I'm just saying this. The whole training thing, I bet it's true. I don't know. I haven't seen every drone, and I doubt the Trump administration has gotten to examine every single drone. All I'm saying is that if he had stayed there for that weekend while those drones were flying around, I think potentially, this is just me, I think potentially we may have saw a third, fourth attempt of some kind. I don't know if it would have been the drones. I don't know. But I'm just saying it's very odd. And Trump, he's become very strategic with the way that he speaks. So he'll if he's trying to tell you something, he's not going to outright say it anymore. He does a little bit, but he sneaks in these little things, because this isn't exactly something he could come out and say. But he made sure not to stay in the area where the drones were, although he was saying that the government knows exactly what they were. For someone who's about to become president, you should have no worries if that's what you know and you've been briefed. But for some reason, he said, that might be dangerous for me, so I'm not going to go there. I think something might have happened if he went and stayed there for the weekend while those drones were flying around. That's just me. That's just a tinfoil, okay? If you didn't put it on, I didn't warn you this time about the tinfoil Speedo, because you should put it on. You should know that already. You should know better, okay? Thongs for the ladies, Speedos for the men. Everybody knows the drill, okay? Hats for the old timers. I know back in the day it was always a tinfoil hat. That's fine. No problem. Put your hat on. But that's just me. That was just something that popped into my head, because I'm like, he kept mentioning that place. The drones were in that place. Now they're saying it was just nothing. I don't know. And I know for a fact they don't want him to be president. They did not want him to be president. They tried every single thing they could. There's not a thing you could name that they didn't try, except for joining him and just, celebrating him. That's the only thing they didn't try. They tried everything. So wouldn't put it past them. They, of course, not naming anybody specifically, right? Anyways, guys, like, subscribe, turn on the notifications, helps the channel tremendously. And other than that, I'm out.